You see it?
No, where is
It's
it?
right here. Right in my master for molding. It's smart. Hey, welcome back to the garage. So the next few weeks we're going to be painting these 3 masks. All 3 of these masks I think are like pretty easy paint ups. I tried to pick ones that like only needed to be altered a little bit. You'll probably see them in the background and stuff of each video, but we'll release like one specific mask video each week. And so the first one I'm going to start with is the Scooby-Doo zombie. As I said, this is the zombie from Scooby-Doo, Which is Which. It's one of my favorite episodes of Scooby-Doo, and he is very pale in the episode, like a super pale olive. I kind of think he should look a little more like albino, but I also want to put that green in there. Like whenever I think of him, it was just like white with the red eyes. I think that he'll look cool with like kind of a pale olive green. So I just grabbed a few colors. I don't know if I'll use all of them yet. This is Ghoul, Zombie Flesh Light, Fright White, and Creeping Flesh White. I don't even know if I'll end up touching these or not. I know at first I'm just gonna start off with Ghoul and then tint it up and make it like a lot paler. The reason why I start with like the white first is because you just waste less paint that way. Like a lot of times, like if you start with a darker color and you try to tint it up and get it lighter, then you just end up like chasing it. But if you start light and you just tint it to the color you want, then it's a lot easier. So I got it to the white and the Zombie Flesh Light. That kind of gives it just a more yellowy, bony look. So now I'm gonna go in and tint it with the darker color Ghoul. I'm usually just like experimenting and just trying stuff out and just figuring it out. Like, figuring out if I like it or not. Okay, so I think that that's a pretty cool color to start with. Distilled water we use because it doesn't corrode the airbrush, basically. Like, I don't know why, but a lot of people like make a big deal like, does it have to be distilled water? I like get asked that all the time. And it's like 99 cents and it comes in like a big jug. So it's worth it to, I mean, I've never tried anything else because that's just what everyone says to use. So, okay, so I went in and I just started kind of lightly dusting it with that kind of light ghoulish color. And it was looking like really cool, especially in the parts in the neck where there was like more green already before. And it was looking really cool, but as I kind of got towards what I thought was going to be the end, I just took a step back at it and it still looked a little too yellow to me. I definitely want to make it, I want to like transition it into a more like light olive. So I'm just going in now and I'm just kind of going a lot heavier over everything. And then even still, you know, like I still suggest that you sneak up on it slowly like that, because all the spots that I kind of stayed away from a little bit more on the first pass or two, even though I'm going more heavy on it now, I'm going heavy on it everywhere. So the darker spots that I had already gone more heavy on are getting darker, and then the lighter ones are still staying lighter even though they're still more green. So I just keep going over it over and over again until I like the color that it is. Pretty much done with the base coat. I might go in with some more latex paint in a bit. As I was going through, as I said, it looked a little too yellow, so I went ahead and did more and more green, and I lost a lot of that translucency. I was enjoying how the translucency was looking with like the darker green and the yellow. He's a little lighter than I want. I want him to be a little greener. I'm definitely happy with the direction that it's going. I'm gonna do a darker shade of like the same kind of green. I'm gonna use the same mixture, but just more Ghoul. I wanna darken it up. I think I'm gonna go at it lightly with this green first. You can see that's quite a bit darker, but that's a really cool color. So I'm gonna just start with that. I'm just gonna mix in what's already kind of in the cup. That'll lighten it a little bit. And then look, using that same stir stick, you can really see the difference. It's like the same color, just a darker shade. I mixed the exact same colors together, just more Ghoul than Zombie Flesh Light. All right, just added a little bit of Fright White, because I just wanted it to be a little paler, but here's the final kind of color. You can see it's pretty similar to that one, but it's definitely substantially darker. All right, so he's still looking too yellow to me. He kind of went from yellow to like a pale yellow to a slightly darker than pale yellow, and it's not looking how I want him to. What I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna do almost a straight ghoul. For some reason, once I get it on the mask and it's drying and all that, he's just not looking as green as I want him to. I think the only thing I'm gonna do to it is not with the zombie flesh light, because it's got a lot of yellow in it, just with the white. I'm just going, because I do want him to be pale still, I'm gonna just do a few drops of white and I'm gonna move on. Okay, so he's definitely greener. He's pretty much just ghoul now. I think all that mixing and all those layers and all that were probably all for nothing, because I think at this point I sprayed him with so much ghoul that he's basically just ghoul. It's a great color and it looks really good, and it's not my initial intention for it though. I do plan on, I'm gonna let it sit for a minute, let it dry totally. It's gonna darken up a little bit, I'm sure. I do like it more, like I like it more than the stock one, where it's definitely not yellow anymore, but it's definitely also not my initial intention for it. The next thing I wanna do is I'm gonna splatter some brown ink, really light speckles around of brown to just break it up a little bit. So this I'm gonna want to dilute quite a bit. So I'm just gonna do one squirt in there, 70% alcohol to dilute. Amount that you dilute this is pretty important. So these are those really cheap chip brushes. I'm gonna kind of get the bristles out. I'm gonna get some ink on it. I'm gonna rinse a lot of it off, or squeeze a lot of it out anyways. Then I'm just gonna go at it like this and just kind of flick some speckle around it. So this kind of just breaks up the skin tone and gives it a little bit more of an organic feel. And I don't know how much this will really read on camera, but in person it helps a lot. So I'll kind of like almost randomly just throwing them around. I think a good idea would be to use this same color to do like little like liver spots. So I'll kind of like almost randomly just throwing them around. Obviously you don't get liver spots mostly like all over the face. It's mostly going to be like kind of stretchy, just weird spots of the skin. And then, you know, but I'm not doing too much to where it's super noticeable. But then I'll just keep spinning it, and little ones that I think look like they make sense more than others, I'll just go and redo them. I'll go over top of them and make them a little bit more noticeable. I'm not really making new ones at this point. I'm just going around to ones that I like. And if I see a spot that doesn't have one and I want one, then I'll add another one. And then I'm gonna go in with a much darker green and give it like some like little like just touches and streaks little certain places, as well as the veins. And so now I'm gonna just start with Nilbog, which is basically just straight up green. So I'm just gonna add just a few drops of slime to kind of lighten it up, but keep it in that kind of greenish, you know, kind of yellow region. Starting out with this by kind of just going into the cracks on the back of the head, because I want to see how this green reacts on top of this other green. I think it's pretty cool. So I'm gonna give it touches of this green, and I'm moving in the direction of these wrinkles, and I'm kind of trying to hit inside the wrinkles as much as possible. Kind of just contouring it with a darker green. I'm not staying in any one region for too long. All right, so I just went in with the green, mostly just Nilbog. You could probably just get away just doing just the green Nilbog. It still looks very plain, like at first glance. You know, it's a Scooby-Doo zombie. He's just one color in the cartoon. I think that this added a little degree of realism to it. The next step is gonna be painting the eyes and the tongue red. Let's do the red. For red, I'm gonna use ink. I'm just gonna use crimson. Okay, so done with the red on the eyes and the tongue, pretty much, I guess. Hang on. A little bit more overspray on that lip than I would like, honestly, but I'm just gonna live with it, move on. I do like the overspray on these eyelids, though. I think that that's pretty cool. So I'm just gonna switch to black now. I'm gonna black out the mouth. And Probably still gonna do black on the eyelids. Haven't quite decided, so I'll start with the mouth first and kind of see how I feel about it. Once you put black on there, I mean, there's no going back unless you start all the way over. The red layer, it took, you know, a decent amount of time because I was doing with the ink. You have to kind of do it in a lot of different layers and dry it in between and just keep adding on to it. If I had used like just the red rum from the Mabry Monsters latex paint, which would have been totally fine, it would have gone a lot faster, honestly. I just typically kind of like that crimson color a lot for eyes and stuff like that, and I'm just kind of used to that one. So that's why I did that, but you don't really have to get red if this is the only one that you were gonna do. You could just get red rum. I'm just gonna use this same black that I was using earlier. This is not Mabry black, this is just FW black again. And then I went over the tongue quite a bit with black as well, just to kind of chill it out. I didn't want him to have like a super intense like red tongue or anything like that. I want the eyes to pop out red, but I kind of want the tongue to get lost in the mouth almost, honestly. I also kind of used the black to chill out that red that was on the lip that I didn't like. As you can see, I went ahead and I did the black eyeliner, made him a gothic zombie. And then the other thing that I've just been doing, I've just been going around to all the crevices and deep contours and stuff and just hitting it with black. It's gonna pretty much make the color that you're putting it on just like a darker version of that, more or less. Not always. Sometimes black will really kind of mess things up, but typically it's just kind of giving it a darker tone. So you see this ear pops a lot better now. The contours here pop a lot better. And you almost don't even need to do that Nilbog color. In fact, you know what? I'm gonna go over this green on this vein that I didn't like that much, just with a little bit of black. I'm gonna leave that one because I think it looked cool. So the last step after I'm kind of almost, not completely randomly, but just intuitively just kind of going around and just putting a little black everywhere. You gotta be careful with this, obviously. You can really mess it up, but and you can go too far because it starts to, I do this a lot because it starts to look really cool the more black you add, and you just add more and more and more and you ruin it. So we have 2 more steps to do. We're gonna do the black dots, which is always stressful. All I'm gonna do is put a dot there and put a dot there, and hopefully it'll feel like they're looking in the same direction. You can really ruin the entire paint job right now. So the most typical way that everybody does this is you find just a paintbrush and you just use the back of it. You dip it in paint and you do your little dot and your little dot. If you want a bigger one, I kind of found this trick. This is a perfect one, but it is gonna be pretty big, but I'm gonna do a couple tests first. So let me find another one that's not this one real quick. And you can kind of see there's different size dots. Every time you do a dot, you know, it's gonna be smaller. So what I mean is like, and that you can see they get smaller and smaller. That's way too small. Yeah, I think I'm gonna go with this guy.
You can really ruin the entire paint job right now, right now, right now, right now, right now.
So I'm happy enough with them. I redid this eye like I think 3 or 4 times. It's still messed up compared to this one. You know, if you look closely, you can see it's just not a perfect circle. It's kind of like ovally. And then this one's like a perfect circle. But at least they're looking in the same direction. That's like the scariest part, is just getting them to look the right direction. I just wasn't willing to redo it again. It doesn't look that bad, but I will forever see it and it will forever bother me. But it is what it is. So I'm gonna hit it with the blow dryer just to speed up the drying process, obviously, and then we're gonna hit it with the 5-minute epoxy to make the eyes look like they're wet. The one thing I forgot to mention is sealing the mask. We're gonna go ahead and do that with this little gloss finish mixture that I've used in the past. But once again, this is just half mask making latex and half polyurethane, water-based polyurethane, which again is used to seal wood floors, so it's stretchy. So I'm just gonna Squirt some in there, and then I just give it one just spritz of distilled water. I try to not go too heavy on this. I don't want it to be super glossy, but I definitely don't want it to be matte, and so that's why I'm going with this. Got a cheap acid brush again. I'm gonna cut it at an angle, squeeze it, fan it out. DevCon 5-minute epoxy, mix it 1:1. Should be able to do both eyes in one batch. Okay, so all finished up with the zombie mask from Scooby-Doo, Which Witch is Which. I'm pretty happy with how he turned out. I definitely want to do another one in the future, probably just on my own time. That'll be like a really pale skin tone, kind of albino looking version of him. It's kind of what I originally sought after, but then as I started painting it and I saw the cartoon and everything again this morning, I wanted him to be green and he was looking too yellow, and so I made him more and more green. Lots of kind of rebases with this one, but it's one of my favorite masks that Tots has put out. Justin did an awesome job with the sculpt, and I'm pretty happy with how this paint job turned out. I'll have this one that's like my green one, and then I'll do an albino one in the future. But yep, that's about it for that. So we'll see you next week for another Mask Monday.